It's Monday, guys. That's just about all I have to say about that. I'm Jessie Coffield, and this program is The Sweat. For the next 60 minutes, it's nothing but the best DFS and betting advice you can get. DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich, Reed Fowler, and Julian Edlow are here. And what's that I'm feeling? A mental breakdown? A panic attack? Do you see what I did there, you guys? Do you see it? I'm overreacting to the existential dread that is Monday. Let's keep that trend going with, you guessed it, Overreaction Monday. So are these statements about what we saw in Week 7 overreactions, or are they justified, just like a mental breakdown? The Colts held off the Texans yesterday and are now in sole possession of first in the AFC South. These teams are both plus 135 to win the division on DK Sportsbook. Jeff, is it an overreaction to say the Colts are going to win this thing?
No, this is a pretty heady reaction. I think it's a pretty mild reaction to what we saw over the weekend. I mean, the Colts coming into this year, we thought were going to be a good team. I think the question mark was at quarterback, but those question marks have pretty much been answered. And yeah, their defense hasn't been great at times this year. DVOA-wise, they're kind of in the bottom half of the league, but they have injuries. They're going to get healthier as the season goes on. The main thing is they have a QB who's playing well. They have a really solid offensive line, and they've been doing it that way. So Colts definitely deserve to be the favorite. I would even say this is an underreaction. I feel like the Colts should be bigger favorites after beating the Texans in this spot. The Colts still only sitting really at plus money. The Texans are a decent team, but I do feel like the Colts beating them, like they deserve to be a little bit bigger favorites in the spot right now.
Reed, are you agreeing with Jeff here? You think this is actually an underreaction?
Yeah, and I'm a little confused. Like, Jeff is doing his best Madame Cleo impression there with that, like, ambient lighting. I have no idea what
he's not at
there.
home. He's traveling. He's not in Canada.
I know. He's just an undisclosed location. But look, he's right.
Ours.
When you look at the Colts, too, I think it's a real testament to Frank Reich and what he's been able to do, and this entire team rallying around Jacoby Brissett as their franchise quarterback now. And they got him on the cheap, which is really nice. Because he should be he should be a guy who should be getting more money. And now you just look at this division. I'm surprised Jeff didn't allude to his Jacksonville Jaguars as being decent odds at plus 650. But he's right. Look at their schedule, too. They got Denver, Pittsburgh, Miami, and Jacksonville over the next 4. And it's feasible to think that they can go 4-0 in that, maybe 3-1, and be at 8-2 or 7-1 at that midway or that, a little bit past midway mark. Houston, too, losing Will Fuller. They average 11 points less per game with Will Fuller out. He, again, has a soft tissue injury, should be out for an extended amount of time. That scares you about Houston as well. So, yeah, I like the Colts.
All right, Jules, what do you think?
Yeah, look, it might be an overreaction to say that the Colts are like a shoo-in to now march to a division victory, but Jeff's totally right. These guys being even after going head-to-head and the Colts coming out on top, having sole possession, and having that head-to-head win over them, which would count in the standings. The Colts deserve to be the favorites here. They should probably be more around even odds, and the Texans up at plus 160 or plus 170 or something after that game yesterday. And yeah, they still do have to play in Houston, but like Reed said, the Will Fuller injury is a big deal. He's a huge piece of that offense. Watson loves to find Fuller deep down the field. Sometimes we saw recently he dropped a few of those touchdowns. The week before, he brought in those touchdowns. So good for DeAndre Hopkins' fantasy value, I guess, going forward, but bad for this offense in general. The way that Indy's going right now, they just seem like the better coach team, the more well-rounded team, and having that sole possession of first place right now definitely puts them in the driver's seat.
All right, the Saints dominated the Bears and will likely be getting Drew Brees back this week. Now, their remaining schedule doesn't look too tough here. Is it an overreaction to say the Saints will win out, Reed?
I think so, because they still have to play San Francisco and the Colts in the remaining games. And those, obviously, with San Francisco being a tough matchup, we just talked about the Colts. But again, we have to give respect to Teddy Bridgewater. Brees, the reports are that he potentially could come back this week, and that only fares better for the Saints. But we all remember what happened to this exact team last year when they went into Dallas around Thanksgiving, and Dallas was virtually no one was choosing Dallas, and Dallas comes out on top, and it was a low-scoring game, and that changed the trajectory of that Saints season. They still made it to the NFC Championship game, but that did slow down their momentum. Injuries always can happen to key players that can, take this off the rails a little bit. So it's not a shoo-in because they still have some tough matchups, but these guys look really good with any quarterback that they have under center.
Jules, is it an overreaction to say the Saints will go undefeated?
Of course it's an overreaction. I don't think any team's going to win out the rest of the way, and as impressive as they've been, the only team I guess we can talk about that we even see odds on that is the Patriots winning out. And while I might like to see that, I don't think that that's plausible either. So just somewhere along the line, even if it's not one of the better teams that Reed mentioned in San Francisco and Indy, which will obviously be tough games, they're just going to have a bad day or have some bad luck like they did in Los Angeles against the Rams and lose. It just happens in the NFL, no matter how well coached you are, no matter how good your quarterback is. I think a great storyline, though, Bridgewater going 5-0, why not rest Breeze with the bye coming up after Arizona? New Orleans is a 10-point favorite at home in this one. Bridgewater's 5-0. Teddy Bridgewater in his career as a starter, 28-7 against the spread. That's like otherworldly. Just keep going with Bridgewater, give Breeze another couple weeks off and bring him back, and you'll be fine.
Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, here's an idea. Just rest Drew Brees the rest of the regular season.
That would be an overreaction.
I was ready to be totally against this, just say it's ridiculous winning out, but look at their schedule. Julian alluded to the next three matchups. It's Cardinals, Falcons, Bucks. They play the Panthers twice. They play the Falcons again. They have one tough game, and it's at home versus San Francisco. I guess at home versus the Colts is a bit of a tough game too, but I'd still like the Saints in that matchup. Yeah, this is a really easy schedule they got coming up. So obviously I'm going to lean and say it's an overreaction to say they can win out because of the things Julian just said, which is true. It's just the NFL. Good teams lose to bad teams all the time, but wow, this schedule is pretty soft coming up. I mean, the only thing that might get the Saints here is just like the Week 17 where they're so far ahead of everyone, they just have to rest their players.
All right, guys, Danny Dimes has not been throwing many dimes lately. His Giants have lost 3 in a row. They open as 6.5-point underdogs when they face the Lions, who are probably better than their 2-3-1 record. I mean, is it an overreaction to say they should be bigger dogs in this one, Jules?
I think they probably should be on the other side of the touchdown here, probably plus 7.5-point underdogs. So the Lions are definitely better than their record indicates. They absolutely should have that win over Green Bay. They probably shouldn't have collapsed against Arizona. They could easily find 2 or 3 more wins so far in their schedule that they've played. So this is a game where the Lions are coming off 2 really frustrating divisional losses, and now they get a really bad Giants team coming into their own building. I think that Detroit probably wins this game by more than a touchdown, so getting the 6.5 seems like some pretty good value to me.
Jeff, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, Detroit's been kind of a strange team this year. They've looked really good in spots, but at the same time, they've had trouble just closing out games and just doing regular stuff to win games. So, I mean, you want to lean and say, like, the Giants should probably be, like, plus 8 or something here or plus 8.5. At the same time, I guess the lines are kind of giving credence to the fact the Lions just have not taken care of business in spots either. Like Julian said against the Cardinals week 1, obviously they can't do anything about the refs stealing a game from them. But yeah, I do feel like it's not an overreaction to say this line should be a bigger spread between these two teams at all. Reed,
where are you going?
Yeah, I'm running lockstep with Julian there in 7.5. That's where I think this line actually moves to as we get on. And look, the other lot, I mean, of course, with Green Bay, we can argue that should have been a win, but their other losses, Minnesota and Kansas City, should have been losses. So I think their record is pretty close to what it should be. And if you just look at their defense on the rushing side, it's not that good. They got a lot of key injuries, too. I mean, that's just something that we have to monitor with Kerryon Johnson, Darius Slay, and then also Snacks Harrison all went out in yesterday's game. And so that is something to monitor. Look at Daniel Jones. I mean, this guy, since he took the reins over from Eli, he's thrown, 7 interceptions. He's got 3 touchdowns, but has been sacked 18 times. So it's his offensive line is garbage, and his defense is garbage. So he has to drop back. He has no pocket presence, and this guy is just throwing interceptions after interceptions. So, yeah, if those injuries, if that secondary can come back healthy, I think this should be Detroit's game by a long shot. But if not, it's probably going to land right around that 7.5 mark.
It's a good point about Damian Harrison being out, because like if Saquon Barkley is able to go against a non-Damian Harrison defense, it would have me leaning towards the Giants, quite frankly, because Detroit's kind of in a spot where their season's it's almost done.
Yeah. I mean, and just looking at Daniel Jones again, like, wouldn't we feel a lot different about him if it wasn't his first NFL start where he came in and just went nuts? And that's kind of just stuck with him. Oh, Daniel Jones might be good. He might be good. Well, he's been bad every game since. And that's starting to become quite a few games. So this guy might not be exactly what we thought he was.
He's going to get the downgrade to Danny Nichols. All right, thanks, guys. Looking at some NBA futures bets after this edition of Who'd I Miss On. Everyone's laughing. Okay, it was funny.
Hello, I'm Brendan Glasheen, and this is Who'd I Miss On with Adam Levitan. It's a segment we do every Monday during the football season with Levy. We recap who we missed on when it comes to plays from the NFL Sunday main slate. I feel like this is a first, admitting a miss on a quarterback. Matt Ryan was wretched against the Rams at home. Completion percentage less than 60, 59 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, 2 turnovers, and he got hurt, a left ankle injury in the fourth quarter. I realize he's been solid all year, but why was there faith in him heading into this one?
Yeah, it's usually pretty easy or relatively easy to get quarterback right on DraftKings. So I think it's really bad when you miss. And yeah, we had concerns about the offensive line, defensive line mismatch between the Rams and the Falcons, which is massive. They were getting Jalen Ramsey in there. They also have Aaron Donald. And anytime you play a quarterback who is not a rusher, a la Lamar Jackson, a la Russ Wilson, a la Josh Allen, you're going to find the lower floor than you would with those guys who can pick you up with their legs. So in hindsight, perhaps a mistake on Matt Ryan.
Tyler Boyd was targeted 14 times Sunday against the Jags, but the Bengals wideout only caught 5 of them, 55 yards receiving. He fumbled the ball too. How much is this, besides the fumble, on Andy Dalton?
Yeah, anytime you have Andy Dalton on a really bad offensive line against the Jaguars, there's going to be some concern. But if you told me that I could get 14 targets out of Tyler Boyd for under $6K, I'd be pretty excited about it. So, sometimes it just goes like that, with Kenny Galladay. Matt Stafford throws for almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Kenny Galladay sees 2 targets, catches 1 ball. With wide receivers, it's just a much wider range of outcomes, and it's something that we have to accept.
One more, we found out Saturday Alvin Kamara would not play for the Saints at the Bears, so Latavius Murray then received number 1 back snaps, and he produced 119 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns. You chose not to get on him. Why not?
Yeah, it was really close. I thought it was close between Latavius and Devontae Freeman and Josh Jacobs and Kerryon Johnson, all these guys in the low 5K range. I decided not to go with Latavius just for overall game environment. I thought it could be 2 really, really good defenses, I think, going toe-to-toe and really slow, low scoring, not a lot of red zone opportunities. But in the end, when Latavius Murray, who's a pretty talented guy and involved in the pass game, is getting 80, 90+% of the running back touches, it's hard to go wrong.
That is who Adam Levitan missed on in Week 7. You can find his coverage on DK Live, the DK Playbook, and on Twitter at Adam Levitan. We'll catch you next Monday, Levy, to see who you missed on in Week 8.
All right.
Long time no see for these two. Karn Phillips, senior columnist for the Shadow League, and Nick Whalen from RotoWire. Guys, good to have you here. The season is right around the corner, so need to get your takes on these NBA futures bets. So the Eastern Conference has 2 teams with very good odds to reach the finals. The Bucks at +150 and the 76ers at +220. Karn, would you take one of these teams to come out of the East, or do you like somebody else?
No, I'm all in on the Milwaukee Bucks, just because when you look at the Eastern Conference, just from a process of elimination, they're the only team that I actually believe can actually pull this off. And, this Philly team last year, the way their run ended, and you think how they retooled, their entire roster, their starting 5 and their offense possibly, they look like a very good contender. But I saw a stat the other day, last season, Ben Simmons attempted 73 shots outside of the paint compared to 493 for Joel Embiid. So unless that stat completely reverses or switches, or Brett Brown just has some new secret G14 classified offense is going to change things for them, I just don't see them coming out the East and going to the finals when your center shoots more jump shots than your point guard.
Yeah, allegedly Ben Simmons can shoot threes, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Nick. Yeah, allegedly. Now, Nick, the Bucks +150, 76ers +220. Do you like one of these guys? Are you looking at somebody else in the East?
I feel the opposite. I like Philly, and especially given the odds. You're getting them at +220, not a huge leap up from the Bucks at +150. But for me, it felt like Milwaukee kind of stayed the same, if not got a little bit worse this offseason, losing Malcolm Brogdon. They brought back the rest of that core, made a few kind of additions on the fringe, guys like Wesley Matthews, Robin Lopez coming in. But I think the Sixers got better. I think someone like Josh Richardson is certainly not the player that Jimmy Butler is. But I think for what they're going to ask him to do, to fit into this starting five. I think he might actually be the better fit. I think Milwaukee's going to be the team that wins the East in the regular season, but I think we're going to see two guys that have given Giannis trouble in the past, Joel Embiid and especially Al Horford, kind of teaming up to give him even more problems when we get to the Eastern Conference Finals. So to answer your initial question, I like the Bucks and the Sixers significantly more than any other team, and obviously that's reflected in the odds. The only other team looking at the odds on DraftKings Sportsbook that I could really make a case for is the Nets at plus 1,200. And obviously the case there is that Kevin Durant comes back a little more quickly than expected. And all of a sudden, this team that maybe finishes 4th or 5th in the regular season is adding Kevin Durant when we get to round 1 or round 2 of the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Okay, Nick, the Western Conference seems to be a little more open. The Clippers lead the way at plus 200, followed by the Lakers at plus 270, and the Rockets at plus 500. Who do you think comes out of the West here?
So I like Denver to win the West in the regular season. I think this team is as deep as any that we've seen in recent memory. I think they're built to win, 56, 57 games in a really tough conference. But to get to the finals, I have to go with the Clippers. I think the LeBron and Anthony Davis tandem is maybe better than the Paul George and Kawhi Leonard tandem, especially given some of the injury concerns with both of those guys. But I think the depth that the Clippers have, 1 through 8, 1 through 9 versus what the Lakers have at those spots is vastly better. I think if you gave LeBron and Davis the supporting cast that Kawhi and Paul George have, we would feel really, really good about this Lakers team. So guys like Shamet, Zubac, Beverly, Harrell, Lou Williams is the third scoring option for this Clippers team. Those are the type of players that LA doesn't have. And I think when push comes to shove, you can kind of say that, maybe Leonard and Paul George cancel out when it comes to LeBron and Davis. And I think those 2 through 8 guys are really going to end up making the difference for the Clippers.
Karin, who are you seeing coming out of the West?
I like the Lakers, and my surprise pick is the Rockets. But the better question I want to know is that are we saying who's coming out in the regular season or who's going to make it to the finals?
Right.
Because in the regular season, I'm going in with him like it's the Nuggets, just because they're a really good regular season team that no one, I don't think, believes it in the postseason and the playoffs. But I think what the Lakers is, I like the Lakers just because of they have championship experience. Like I counted the other day. If you count up the number of rings on that team, they have 9. You look at the Clippers, they have 1. 2 with Kawhi. That's it. And my thing with the Clippers, as much as I love them on the defensive end, and I think they're going to wreak havoc all year, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Lou Williams off the bench. Who else scores on that entire roster? And that's something that I really want to see. And I really want to see what Doc Rivers does to create some offense when games get close and they get tight. Because it's easy just to give it to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. We know they can get a bucket. Lou Will has been a bucket getter since birth. But everybody else has a lot of question marks. That's what I'm worried about. But I'm all in, like on this Russ Harden tandem either. Don't ask me if I have any stats or any logic behind this. I just like those two guys together, and I think they're going to be really big surprises.
Just going with your gut. I like it. All right, let's shift from some of the best teams to some of the worst. Both the Hornets and the Cavaliers' regular season win totals are just 23.5. Would you take the over on either, Karin?
No, and I'm really, really low on Cleveland because when you just look at that Cleveland roster, it's not. I really just feel bad for Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love because it's just like a couple of years ago, these guys pulled off the 3-1 comeback. They were rolling. They got these fat deals. They got paid. And now you got a rookie head coach who's like 90 years old, and you got this backcourt of 2 guys who can't even get in the club because they're not 21 yet. And it's like, how did Cleveland fall so far so fast? But I wouldn't take the overeat on the Hornets. That's a total rebuild. They have some pieces. They have some guys who can play well. But together, collectively, it's like the same storyline has been for the Hornets the last 5-6 years. You see the pieces. You see what it could be, but it just never quite meshes like you think it would when the games actually start.
Nick, regular season win totals for the Hornets Cavaliers, 23.5. Any chance you're going over here for either?
Absolutely not. And I do not feel bad one bit for Tristan Thompson, who's got $82 million guaranteed based on LeBron James essentially setting him up for a few dunks over the course of a few playoff runs. I mean, if I want to play devil's advocate, you could maybe make a case for the Cavs. They did win 19 last year. That was with Kevin Love missing 60 games due to injury. Maybe if he sticks with Cleveland the entire year and plays 65 plus, he does enough that can maybe get them into the mid-20s. But he's a guy that could be traded midseason. He's a guy that, at most you would expect to play 60, 65 games given his recent injury history. So I don't like either of these unders. I mean, Charlotte, or overs, I should say. Charlotte is just, I don't know what the plan is there. A strangely veteran-laden roster. Typically these teams that you're looking at with really low over-under totals are teams like Cleveland. They're teams like Memphis. They're teams like Phoenix of the past few years where it's, a lot of young guys, a lot of high draft picks. Charlotte doesn't have that. I mean, they have high-priced veteran free agents who have not been productive in several years. They're overmatched at every single position. I like Terry Rozier. I like what he did in spurts as a bench player in Boston, but we're 4 years into his NBA career. He's yet to shoot 40% from the field. I'm not really confident that all of a sudden that's going to be remedied on what could be, a double or triple usage rate, what we saw from him in Boston. I think this Charlotte team, has the potential to be one of the worst teams that we've seen in the last 5 or 10 years.
All right, thanks, guys. Good to have you two back on the Sweat. Now the NFL panel is back in a few to chase your fade sportsbook bets for tonight's Pats-Jets matchup after the latest from the Panel B podcast.
I was going to say, the last time I placed a World Series MVP bet, I hit on plus 3,000, so I should probably give an opinion here, right?
Sure.
I have one too. Go ahead.
Sean Doolittle. What's his?
No, there's obviously guys at the top of the board. Cole's plus 650, Verlander's plus 750. Those are the only guys under plus 1,000. So I'm not going there. Come on. I just immediately went to look at like plus 2,500 and below.
Yeah.
Who stands out down there? Because I think you get guys in similar positions as the guys at the top of the board. So the narrative of going with like Steve Pearce is that he was hitting third in the Red Sox lineup at the time. The Dodgers, who they were facing in the World Series, had a lot of lefties. So why not him instead of a guy like Mookie Betts, who's plus 800? So the best player on Houston right now is Altuve at plus 1,000. So who's somebody, I guess, that's in a role like Altuve at a much more affordable price? So when you look down, there's like Yuli Gurriel at plus 2,500. If you were to go to the Nats side and go with the hot bat, a guy that just won NLCS MVP, you got Howie Kendrick at plus 2,500. I think those are two guys that jumped out a little bit to me. Unfortunately, I don't see anybody plus 3,000 that I like. There isn't even anybody plus 3,000. It just goes right to plus 4,000.
I think Brantley at plus 2,000 is really enticing, kind of like what Alex was saying. Scherzer has struggled with lefties. This is a perfect guy to do it too. And if we do it out here, because I think this is going to go 7 games. They see Scherzer twice in this. Would he potentially be the Game 7 starter? Maybe, but that would set up perfectly if they were into a Game 7. Brantley hits a pivotal home run, kind of recency bias. We've seen a lot with these series. He could be a shoo-in for the MVP at plus 2,000. That was one that stuck out to me immediately because he's been pretty quiet during the playoffs, but this is a perfect scenario for him to kind of break out against someone like Scherzer in a spot where it could be a very tight game.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kendrick, as the hot bet. By far the narrative pick, plus 5,000, Ryan Zimmerman, Mr. National himself. Still going to get that prime batting spot, and that would be a pick if it's more like nobody else really shines. The pitchers are okay, but still limit everyone else, and he just puts together a solid batting average, hit a couple key hits. I think, he's a guy that could sneak in there as well. Probably not, though, if it goes 7 games. I think you're going to see probably some pitcher appear at least twice, if not more, and really work their way up there.
DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich, Reed Fowler, and Julian Edlow are back for Chase or Fade. Guys, do you want to chase any of these sportsbook bets for tonight's Patriots-Jets matchup? So the Patriots are currently 9.5-point favorites tonight. This number keeps bouncing around between 9.5 and 10, so keep an eye on it. Would you chase them covering, Jeff?
Yeah, I think I would. I know the tendency here is to give the Jets some credit. Sam Darnold's back, and their offense looks good. It just gives a boost to guys like Robbie Anderson and stuff like that. But look, the Jets almost blew that game against the Cowboys, and I just do not trust them in this spot. The Patriots are such a good cover team against the spread over their career and in this spot. So I'm fine taking the Patriots. I really just feel like their defense is just on another level. It's almost like the Chiefs' offense of the defense this year that we're seeing from the New England Patriots, and I really feel like it's going to be the factor tonight. So all things considered, if I'm going on the spread tonight, I'm taking the Patriots.
Jules, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason you can consider the Jets here is just because generally these divisional games, even with New England involved in them, tend to be a little bit lower scoring. But at the same time, like, unless we're getting up to maybe 10.5, you could interest me in the Jets. But at 9.5, I still have to lean Patriots here. I still think the Jets are getting a little bit too much credit for that win over the Cowboys, which was great, but Dallas was obviously in a little bit of a spiral at the time, losing 3 in a row outright as favorites. And New York got, some fluky plays in that one and still almost blew it in the end, like Jeff said. So in the end, and we got the Patriots coming off. They played last Thursday night. Now they're playing Monday night. They've had like a million days off to prepare for this game. I think they're going to take care of business.
Reed, you going with these guys? Patriots are going to cover?
Yeah, million days off. That's, I mean...
1 million days off.
Yeah, I'm with these guys, too. And if you just look at over the last 5 games in this head-to-head matchup, to what Julian was saying about the division rivalry, or not even a rivalry, a matchup, is that the Patriots have covered 3 of those where the spread was an average of 15 points. And so put any quarterback or running back or anyone back there, and the Patriots take care of business against the Jets. And it's Bill Belichick against Sam Darnold and Adam Gase. Like, you're not scared of what scheme Belichick is going to come up with. The defense, to what Jeff was saying, is playing amazing. And look, the Jets, they've covered like in 2 of those, but that's the flukiness of potentially a team on a short week, which is not the Patriots here. Kelechi Osemele, he's out. He's probably not playing this game if he is. I mean, he had all that stuff coming up with his injury and not reporting it or what have you, or the Jets not reporting it, whatever it was. That's going to be a big thing for Le'Veon Bell as well, who's not yet got his footing in the Jets, in that Jets offense. So yeah, I'm with these guys.
Point total is 43.5 right now. Would you chase the under, Reed?
This one's interesting. I mean, if you look at the Patriots, they could cover this when it was back in the high 30s by themselves, because that Jets defense doesn't really scare you too much. They don't really get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Their secondary has been playing well with Marcus May and Jamal Adams. But, at this number, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say under. I really don't think the Jets get anything. I think the Patriots take care of business. I think they score in the high 20s. I just don't see the Jets scoring. I mean, Robbie Anderson maybe on a fluky play. They're going to be covering these guys man-to-man on the outsides because they trust their receiver or their cornerbacks, the Patriots do. So maybe on a fluky play, he gets free, but I don't see the Jets doing too much. I'm going to say under.
Okay, where are you going on this one, Jules?
13 of the Patriots' last 18 games have gone under. 8 of the Patriots' last 10 games in the AFC East have gone under. And I believe it's 6 of the last 7 against the Jets. 6 of the last 7 against the Jets have gone under. Yes, Reed, I did some research before this show. Very rare. I think it's going to go under. This isn't the same Patriots offense that we've seen in other years. It's their defense that's so elite. However, I think rather than going with the game total under, I would probably feel more comfortable taking just the Jets team total under, because like Reed said, the Jets probably aren't going to score. You can get it under 16.5 for even odds. And if that goes up to 17.5, then I'm even more intrigued.
All right, Jeff, you want to go under here?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a wild one with the total. I mean, you mentioned it. It sort of started off in the high 30s, and I think taking the over when it was at that price or at that total, it made some sense. I mean, as Reed alluded to, you could see the Patriots getting a defensive score, getting up to 30 points just themselves. But now that this is almost like a different bet at 42.5. I mean, I definitely like the over at this, I definitely like the under at this price, at this number. These 2 defenses are the best units on the field. Obviously, the Patriots is the best unit possibly in the entire NFL, offensive or defensive, but the Jets defense is their best unit too. I mean, they're at least average in DVOA defensively. So, I mean, these are 2 defensive teams. I feel like the number has been blown up because everyone is reacting to Sam Darnold being back. I don't think it's worth that many points. I definitely take the under here.
Speaking of Sam Darnold, he threw for 338 yards in his first game back last week. So his over-under tonight is just 219.5. But that Pats defense, as we know, extremely stingy. Any chance you'd chase the over, Julian?
No, hopefully other people do after that big game that he had in his first game back against Dallas, and you can maybe get a better number on the under. But 90 whatever of those yards came on one bomb to Robbie Anderson. The Patriots most likely aren't going to give a play like that up. I know their last game they gave up that bomb to Golden Tate, and that was the only thing that the Giants got on offense the whole game. But Daniel Jones was still terrible the rest of the game and stayed like 70 yards under his passing prop number. So I think it's going to be a pretty similar situation here. Like I said off the top, the Patriots have had so much time to prepare for Darnold. I just don't see him being able to get those big chunk plays off of this defense.
Jeff, come on, you buying into, recency bias here? You want to...
Yeah.
No? Okay.
I mean, I know it's tempting. Like, we get these low pass numbers against the Patriots. But look, Patriots are 17th in pace of play in the NFL. The Jets are last in pace of play. You're probably going to need volume to get this number, and you're probably not going to get the type of volume you're looking for. So what are you really betting the over here? For one big play, like just hoping against hope? No, I think the under is actually a pretty nice bet here. I wouldn't touch the over for pass yards for Darnold.
Reed, you in agreement with these guys?
Yeah, it's tempting. It's really tempting. But look, Dallas was 23rd in pass DVOA. Patriots are, second? The San Francisco in pass DVOA. And you can rattle off the competition for the Patriots not being good. But, I mean, if you look at this wide receiving core, maybe the best that they're going to face over the first 6 or 7 weeks. But look, 3 of the 9 toughest wide receiver cornerback matchups is going to be this game in the entire week. And this secondary is playing absolutely amazing. Stephon Gilmore has to be one of the best, if not the best cornerback in the NFL right now. And so I just don't see it. But like, they're going to have to pass. Like, Darnold and these guys are going to have to pass. At least that's the game script, the narrative that we think coming into this, if we're thinking that's going to be a blowout. So they're going to have to pass. So that backdoor cover, like the last 2 or 3 plays, maybe. But to Jeff's point, like, you're not going to hope on a prayer that he's going to do it at the very end of the game. So no, I agree with these guys.
All right, Julian Edelman has at least 110 yards in each of his last 2 games. His over-under for receiving yards is just 78.5. I mean, Jeff, would you chase the over here?
This is the only one I'm a little bit on the fence about, because I do like the spot for Edelman. The Jets secondary isn't good. I mean, with Josh Gordon being out, the volume is probably going to be there. He's caught 17 passes over his last 2 games. But this total, like usually for Edelman, we kind of, if we're going to take the over, we want like 68 or like just around 70 yards. This is asking a lot. I mean, in a game where the defense could just take over and the Patriots could just be running out the clock. So I guess a long-winded say, I'm kind of leaning the under here.
Reed, you leaning towards the over any chance?
Man, it's tempting. But Brian Poole is someone that hasn't given up a ton in terms of passer rating. He's averaging a 68.5, I believe, on average in passer rating when targeted. I really hope that Dorsett can go. I hope that he's more than 75, 80% there. I really hope that he's active, because at his line, I think it's 49.5. At plus money, I think it's plus 110 or 115. I like that a lot more because of his matchup as opposed to Edelman. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to go under.
Jules, everybody's tempted here.
Reed, bringing up Steve Buchanan, Super Bowl MVP, Philip Dorsett.
There you go.
I'm glad that you went there, because my favorite receiver bet in this game is Philip Dorsett. I'm just looking at the receptions prop at 3.5. I think going over 3.5 receptions for Dorsett makes a lot of sense. And if I were to bet anything on Edelman, I think he's going to get more touches maybe than yards. So the 6.5 receptions for Edelman, I would feel more comfortable with the over there than going with the yardage. I guess my answer is I don't really feel comfortable playing either side of the yards here. So I guess that means I lean to the under. But I think the reception numbers for Dorsett at 2.5 or Edelman at 6.5, even Jacoby Myers, who's going to be in there in a wide receiver 3 role at 2.5 makes sense. And if for some reason Dorsett doesn't play, then Myers is the wide receiver 2, and you get that 2.5 number there.
What about Gunner?
No Gunner for me, Reed.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding. No one's playing Gunner.
Okay, thanks, guys. Still got to get your Showdown picks, so please stick around. NHL Bargain Bin is coming up with Ben Zwyman, BRB.
Hello, I'm Brendan Glasheen, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash, Vikings have been rolling ever since Adam Thielen bashed Kirk Cousins, who soon after issued a public apology to his wide receiver. Minnesota won its 3rd straight game since that whole mishap, dropping 42 points on the Lions in Detroit, but Thielen only caught 1 of Cousins' 24 completions. he got hurt while reeling in a circus 25-yard touchdown pass in the first quarter. Thielen injured his right hamstring. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport said Monday morning that it's a real possibility Thielen misses Thursday's matchup with the Redskins, and that is just terrible timing. Even so, speaking of terrible, they've got the 1-6 Redskins, as we mentioned, at home, so they should be just fine without him. Rookie wideout B.C. Johnson might see an increased role in the offense. The 7th rounder out of Colorado State caught 4 balls for 40 yards and a touchdown on 8 targets Sunday in Detroit. Oh, and you still got that guy Stephon Diggs, too. He's pretty good.
Ice, ice, baby. DK Live's Ben Zwyman has graced me with his presence for NHL Bargain Bin. There he is, helping DFS players find value on tonight's little small slate. All right, let's start with center here. Where should the people be looking, Ben?
The people should be looking at Alexander Kerfoot. The Maple Leafs are without John Tavares for a couple more weeks. He's done. Alexander Kerfoot skating on the second line with Mitch Marner and Ilya Mikheyev. So tonight I really like Kerfoot and Mikheyev. Kerfoot's 3,900. He skated a season high 16:34 against the Bruins over the weekend. He's going to see a lot of ice time with Tavares out. He's going to get some power play time. The Maple Leafs are going to be chalk tonight against the Blue Jackets at home. But I think Kerfoot, even with the chalk, it's like good chalk that you should be eating. Whenever you can find value on like one of the top stacks of the night, I think you have to take advantage of it. And also keep an eye on warm-ups. They're actually probably going on right now. Andreas Johnson is questionable, so I'm not sure if he's going to play or not. If he doesn't play, the lines may shift a little bit, but if they stay the same, I think Kerfoot's in a really good spot to return value.
All right, the guy you're looking at on the wing is a little bit more expensive here.
Right, yeah. Claude Giroux of the Flyers. The Flyers actually switched up their line, so Giroux has wing eligibility tonight, but he's skating at center on the first line with James Van Riemsdyk and Jakub Voracek. Those guys have played a lot of ice time together. They're actually insanely hot coming into this game, but their prices are all down. JVR especially, 9 shots on goal in back-to-back games. Voracek was coming off a 3-point night over the weekend against the Oilers. Giroux's been really good lately. I think they have a lot of pop potential. Oscar Dansk is in net for the Golden Knights instead of Marc-Andre Fleury. I think the Flyers' prices reflect Fleury potentially starting tonight, and the Flyers just haven't been playing well. 4-game losing streak. They're at home. I think they come out tonight and you get a response from that top line, and Giroux's price is really low.
All right, which cheaper guy do you like at defense tonight?
I love Nikita Zaitsev of the Senators at 4,500. For some reason, his price doesn't go up, but he's second in the league in shots in block shots so far with 26 in 7 games. He's hit the 3+ block shots bonus in every game this season. He's got an incredibly high floor. He's skating a lot of ice time. I believe he's in the top 20 among defensemen so far this season, around 24 per game. The Stars haven't really been playing well. They're allowing their 22nd. They rank 22nd in terms of points against defensemen on DraftKings. So yeah, I think Zaitsev's a really, really appealing cash game play. He doesn't really have that ceiling that you're looking for GPPs, but again, his price is really low. He's going to skate a lot of ice time, and the Senators are a little sneaky, so I think his ownership may be low.
And finally, it is a small slate, so finding a cheap goalie might be kind of tough here, but who do you like?
Dansk I don't mind too much, and Joonas Korpisalo for the Blue Jackets. Both those guys are really cheap. But the guy I'm looking at is Philip Grubauer of the Avalanche. The Avalanche haven't lost in regulation so far this season. They're playing the Blues on the road, so a lot of people sort of see this as the game where they do lose in regulation. But the Blues haven't been playing well. Stanley Cup champions, they're on a 4-game losing streak. Grubauer's been really good so far this season. He's 5-0-1. He's averaging 32 saves a game, so you're sort of creeping towards that 35+ save bonus. So I think he should see around 35 to 40 shots tonight. He's got a good chance of hitting that bonus. So even if he gets the loss, he has a decent chance of returning value, 7,500. So yeah, I like Groups to potentially return value. He's a pretty good GPP play.
Thanks, Ben. You're a real ice king.
No problem, Jess.
Anytime. Yep.
What's up? It's that time for your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. I'm Taryn Azak.
What does going 5-0 and leading your team to first place in the division get you? Well, if you're Teddy Bridgewater, it could get you a seat on the bench. ESPN's Mike Triplett reported that Drew Brees is planning on practicing this week and hopes to return against the Cardinals on Sunday. Triplett added that it's still a we'll see situation based on how the week goes. It's a tough deal for Bridgewater, who has been more than serviceable, filling in for the future Hall of Famer. Sunday against a tough Bears defense was arguably his best performance of the season, completing 23 passes for 281 yards and 2 scores with no interceptions and adding another 21 yards on the ground. It's week 8. The Saints face the 3-1 Cardinals and then have a bye. New Orleans will likely give their franchise QB a little more time to heal, so that will give Bridgewater one more shot to prove he's the real deal in a great matchup against Arizona, who is giving up the most fantasy points to opposing QBs this season. The PGA Tour is in Japan right now. DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler are not. They're here to play PGA for better or worse. So should these golfers' odds be better or worse for the Zozo Championship? Jeff, Justin Thomas is the favorite at plus 800. He won the CJ Cup last week. Do you think he should be a bigger favorite, or is it too hard to win back-to-back events?
Well, first of all, Jess, you don't know that I'm not in Japan right now.
Honestly, I don't. That's true.
I'm not in Japan.
Okay, cool.
Look, Justin, I know Rory McIlroy's in the field. I know Rory McIlroy is ranked higher than Justin Thomas in the world golf rankings right now. But you got to look at everything coming into perspective and put it in perspective. Justin Thomas has been playing. He's played a fall series event. He played, obviously, on the Asian Swing last week, and he won the event. He's the one coming in with the recent form who's got everything going right now. Rory McIlroy, obviously coming in off a little bit of a break. I know he played the Skins game last night, but that was basically terrible. I think everything considered, Justin Thomas deserves to be a slight favorite over Rory McIlroy. That's exactly how I would have graded it personally. I don't think he needs to be a massive favorite, but these odds look pretty much exactly right to me.
Reed, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think we would argue that even if he was at like plus 650, he'd be like a bad bet. I mean, we don't like to take that number anyway. We were talking about a golf tournament, but another no-cut event. And you just look at tournaments in Asia, it usually happens where these guys have decent back-to-back performances. It doesn't happen all the time, but look at JT. When he won the CJ Cup back in 2017, he got a top 20, I believe, or a top 17 at the CIMB. And we see that just the familiarity with the type of grass, the courses, the elements out there, that these guys, if they play either the week before or the week after those tournaments, they perform well. So is it out of the realm of possibility? No. Because JT, like Jeff mentioned, is number one in all statistical categories. When you look into the last couple of rounds, the last couple of tournaments that these guys have played, he's number one in birdie or better games, strokes gained par 4, all the things that I think that you would need at this course. So am I betting him at that number? Probably not, but it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be lower than this, even though I wouldn't.
Justin Thomas loves him some non-U.S. events too.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I guess Hawaii's technically the U.S. Read. I guess technically, but I mean Hawaii. He's won the CIMB Classic. He's won he just wins a lot away from the United States.
Okay, well, Tiger Woods will make his season debut. He's at plus 3,500. Should that number be better or worse, Reed?
It should be worse. I know Tiger is always going to get this number because he won the Masters. And we're not necessarily going to see Tiger higher than this at any point. And even if he is, right, he's a guy that he has to be at a course that we like him at, whether it be Augusta, whether it be Innisbrook, whether it be any of these courses that he does well at. That's something that's where we want Tiger. At this number, though, at plus 35, there's other guys around him, even lower than that. Adam Scott is someone that I'm particularly interested in. Xander Schauffele, talk about a no-cut event type player. He's someone that's around these odds as well. So at this number, I think it should be a little worse. I wouldn't be tempted to hit it.
Jeff, should Tiger's odds be worse here?
Well, I mean, probably they probably should be a little bit higher, like plus 4,000 or something. But the thing is, you're never really going to see it in a field like this that high, just because Tiger Woods is a popular player. He gets bet up a lot, and it just, it keeps the numbers down a little bit. So, but yeah, from a betting perspective, coming in with like no recent form or anything like that, no playing time, it'd be pretty hard for me to get behind it. So, I think these odds are a little bit too short right now.
You just get the first couple of holes, too, when he was in the Skins match. He was, like, missing greens
Not
pretty
good.
bad. Not great, Bob.
Wow, you have been loving that lately, Reed. All
I
right.
know. I always get it incorrect.
It's
so that was
okay.
the first time I think I got it correct.
You did it, Reed.
I did it.
So proud of you. Local star Hideki Matsuyama has the third best odds at plus 1,800. Jeff, do you think he should have better odds here?
I don't. It's pretty hard to grade a guy who hasn't won in like over a year and a half better than this. Just because the field behind him is so good. I mean, you got Shoffley, Woodland's coming in with really good form. Spieth is actually decent form. Paul Casey, who won like a month ago. So I think Hideki is actually pretty deserving to be the third favorite right now. It's his home country. He's coming in with recent form. He played last week. He's got it rolling a little bit. And I think you look at the other guys, some of them coming off breaks. I think it's fine to put Hideki at this number, but any shorter, I'd be starting to raise some question marks. I certainly wouldn't be advocating it as a bet, but his home country, lots of things going for him. I think this number is actually fine. I do think he's deserving to be third favorite.
Reed, do you like this number? Do you think it should be better?
I like this number. I think, it'd be really nice for him to win this. He won at the WDC Bridgestone, which is at Firestone, which I kind of like as a corollary at this course. I mean, it's par 70, it's on bent grass, which is what we see here. It's a WGC event, so it's no cut until you get all those 4 rounds. And that's the last time he's won. And that's always been Hideki's thing, is he hasn't won. He's been close. Top 3 last week. He's in his home country. He's been used to having a ton of exposure, media exposure with the Japanese market. He has 40 cameras following him everywhere he goes on the PGA Tour. So I think he's used to that by now. He only got 1 skin last night, which is pretty pathetic for Hideki. But look, this is a course that is tailor-made to Hideki. It's ball striking. It's par 4 scoring. This guy's putting a lot better. I really like it. Again, Adam Scott's right there at plus 2,200. I like him, but I don't mind Hideki at plus 18.
All right, which long shot do you like and therefore think should have better odds, Reed?
Ryan Palmer is at plus 10,000. I think he shouldn't be much better than that. Maybe at plus 8,000 is where I would eventually still click on his name. And if you just look at the type of player that you want here, he's a guy. He fits that mold. And look at all these corollaries like Valspar and something like the Honda Classic. These Florida courses, these shorter, potentially difficult with water hazards on the course. Ryan Palmer is a guy who's performed well in these corollaries. He's first in par 5 efficiency from 550 to 600 yards. He's terrible at par 4 scoring, so that kind of scares me. But at that number, he's been known to get on top of these leaderboards, and if he can make some of these putts, I think he has a solid chance.
All right, Jeff, who do you think should have better odds? A long shot you're looking at.
I like Siwoo Kim. I mean, he's a player who, like Ryan Palmer, played last week. He's familiar with this part of the country, but Siwoo Kim's just a big game hunter. I mean, he's someone who can just pop through with a big week, and I think this technical track actually really suits well with the tracks that he's done on the PGA, like Hilton Head and TPC Sawgrass. So Siwoo Kim coming in over triple digits, I like.
All right, you two hang tight. We're wrapping up the show with your Showdown picks, but first, here's the Pat Mayo experience.
Monday Night Football, the Patriots are at the Jets. This had briefly dropped to -9, then 9.5. It's back up to 10. Money flooding back in on the Patriots after a little bit of a groundswell for the Jets. We know Cust, super lock of the week, Jets plus 9.5, but we'll see how that ends up working out for him. He's not having a great picks week. Not like me, who's currently 11-2 and needs the Patriots to cover to really get back in this. Take a stranglehold on our picks contest. But are there any props tonight? Do you have a lean in this game? Because this game is actually a no bet for me. I can see how the Jets do cover, but I don't have a strong feeling either way. Do you?
No, this game is just gross. I mean, there's injuries everywhere. Patriots ruling out a bunch of guys again on the offense for the Jets. There's injuries on their offensive line. You have one guy's not going to be playing. Then you have Khalil, who's questionable coming in, going to be playing limited. That's a center. So there's just injuries everywhere. And honestly, if anything, I lean the Patriots. I mean, historically, just being able to cover, but then also this defense is just going to overmatch them. I think the best matchup individually for the Jets is going to be Crowder out of the slot. That's just like the one spot against Jonathan Jones that you can target a cornerback. But even Jones has been pretty solid. So, yeah, overall, I would lean the Patriots to cover here. The line's moving that way, so you might be a little bit late and just kind of, not bet this game at all. I'm not going to have any props or anything in it. I'm not even – this might be the first showdown in like a month or two that I just sit out because there's just so many pieces of it. And we'll get into it in a second, I bet. But just so many pieces of it that are just very loose right now. And the pricing is very odd. It's a lot of guys in the mid-range that can do anything, so you're not really getting an advantage from going to one over the other.
Is there any parts of this game where you would specifically lean? Like, I know no one's going to use Robbie Anderson. It's a terrible matchup. But would that steer you towards using him in DraftKings Showdown as like a captain in case he can we know he has the big play potential. We saw it against Dallas a week ago. That maybe somehow there's broken coverage. It's not likely, but if there is, and then Darnold can find him downfield, that you have like 1% captain Robbie Anderson. He's scoring like 80-yard touchdowns.
Yeah, I think that's an option. I probably don't get there. I think so. The biggest thing that I've been doing, and it's been for like the past month, and I don't even know if it's right. I think it's hard to really judge these things in this short of a sample, but I've just been, if there's like a quarterback who's extremely expensive, if I play like 30, 40, 50 lineups, I just completely erase him. So Aaron Rodgers last Monday night, I had 0% of. Mahomes, I had 0% of, which probably wouldn't have worked out for me if not being for that injury. But now you get Tom Brady at 11,600. For a guy like Tom Brady to pay that off, a lot of guys have to do poorly, which this would be the matchup for that to happen with Darnold against his defense. But then also Julian Edelman's 11,200 on DraftKings. Like the odds of Edelman outscoring Brady in a winning lineup are very high. The odds of them both being together and you having the salary cap to make that work elsewhere and not have a better optimal lineup, to me, it just doesn't add up. So I've been fading like top end quarterbacks when they hit the $11,000 range. Rodgers was the same price. Mahomes was $12,000. So if I play tonight, I'm going to end up probably more times than not having just 0% Brady. And that's just the way I've been doing it. I've had two of my best showdowns the past month doing that. It's such a small sample to really see if it works at all, but it's just betting on, I don't think Brady's in the winning lineup, and I'm going to build a ton of lineups around that.
The moment that you have all been waiting for, that would be Showdown picks. Jeff Ulrich, Reed Fowler, and Julian Edlow are here to tell us who they like for tonight's Showdown contest featuring the Patriots and the Jets. Now, the Patriots defense has been a must-start in Showdowns this season. Are they a must-play tonight in your opinion? And would you captain them for 10,800, Jeff?
I feel like if when we're talking about the Patriots defense, I mean, yeah, they're sort of a must play. I'm just going to talk about it in terms of tournament strategy. I feel like if you're going to play them, you might as well just captain them because they're cheaper. They save you a little bit of money. And I mean, if they're going to go off, you might as well just throw them in the captain and then save money at the other spots. At the same time, they're going to be such a popular play that I really do feel like if you're not going to captain them, then fading them is viable. So it's really kind of like an either or thing. You're either just going to be overweight where you might as well just captain them, try and go overweight to the field, play them everywhere, or just, try fading them because it's kind of an either or thing at this point. They're going to be such a popular play. Everyone knows how good a unit this is. It just really comes down to pick your poison, I guess.
Reed, pick your poison, must play or fade.
I'm going to fade this. I'm with Jeff here. I think you have to take the polar sides of the equation. Either you're extremely overrated, you're doing multiple lineups, and you just look at the leverage that you're not getting with captaining or with paying up for a defense. And again, this is something that we've always seen in division games. Even though we do like the Patriots as heavy favorites, that a lot of that comes from them scoring defensive touchdowns, accumulating a ton of sacks. If you just look at what the Jets have, just the amount of tape that they have and just their experience with the Patriots, you would hope that they were trying to get the ball out quickly, hopefully not get those sacks, not take too many opportunities. So I'm just going to fade them in terms of the showdown mode.
Julian, you going to fade the Pats D?
You can make the argument for it, I guess, by saying that they only scored 11 DK points against the Jets when they played this game in New England with Luke Falk at quarterback. So going on the road to play Sam Darnold is a more difficult situation. At the same time, this unit has still scored 10 or more DraftKings points in every game. They have the upside for a couple of touchdowns and 30 DK points. And on a showdown slate, I'm not really willing to fade that. So I'm definitely rostering it. I like to eat the chalk on these showdown slates. You only have to differentiate yourself in one spot, really. In order to afford some other things, I probably will consider captaining them.
All right, Le'Veon Bell was held to just 10 fantasy points the last time these teams played. Reed, are you fading him considering he's the third most expensive player on the board?
Yeah, I'm going to fade him as well. And I just think the way and style that this game is going to go and the narrative on what you have to do to beat the Patriots is you're going to have to pass, even though that's one of their strong suits, which is essentially everything on defense and what they do. And then you're going to have to pass. And we've seen Le'Veon Bell get the volume, but just not get the production. That offensive line hasn't helped him one bit. Like I mentioned, Kelechi Osemele is not in. Even though he's just one part of their one cog of that machine, that's a very important part of their run defense. He was strong in terms of his PFF score in run blocking. And so just when you look at that price tag, and again, talking about leverage, I just don't want to pay up for that. So no, I'm going to fade him.
Jules, you're talking about saving money so you could pay up in other places. Is this one of those places?
This is not one of those places. I would like to target Bell on this slate if I had faith in him, because we kind of need, given the Patriots running back situation, which we're going to talk about, all these different guys, we kind of need a guy that we know is going to get the touches, and Bell would ideally be that guy. We want him to see targets here, especially with the game script setting up for the Jets most likely to be playing from behind. And he did see 10 targets while the Jets were getting smoked by the Browns in week 2. He saw 9 when the Jets were getting blown out by the Eagles a couple of weeks ago, but those were with Luke Falk at quarterback. This game, when they played this game in New England, Bell only saw 4 targets. And what has me most concerned, even though the Jets were playing from in front against, or with a lead rather, against the Cowboys, is that Bell only saw 1 target last week, and that was the game with Sam Darnold, who is the guy that we care about right now. So I just can't trust him to get enough touches, particularly in the passing game, to say that I need to lock him in tonight.
Jeff, you going to fade Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah, I think I would. I think if you're going to pay up for a Jet offensive player, it should just be Sam Darnold, and then you mix him in with a receiver and hope for that big play, because I think that's got a way better chance of paying off than Le'Veon Bell, who's more of a volume play. He's not going to get it going on the ground here. I just seriously doubt that's going to happen. And you're basically just banking on him having one of those high receiving games. It could happen, but again, Julian alluded to the last game with Sam Darnold. Certainly didn't happen there. You also have the Jets mixing in Bilal Powell all of a sudden, who played 20% of the snaps last week. Adam Gase has been a guy over his career who likes to mix running backs. So with 3 running backs now, don't be shocked if Lev Bell trends more towards like a 60% snap guy in the shorter term here. So no, I'd much rather pay up for Sam Darnold tonight.
Yeah, something the Patriots do, always keeping you guessing with which running back they're going to use most. So which one do you like tonight, Julian, or would you stay away entirely?
No, I wouldn't stay away. I'm probably going to stay away from Sony Michel, and that might be a little bit dangerous because he has been getting his touches, his carries in recent games. He was terrible the last time out against the Jets somehow. He gained 11 yards and only somewhat salvaged his fantasy day by getting a rushing touchdown, but still, it was just 7 DraftKings points. On paper, this should be a spot that Michel does well, but I'm trusting James White because I think he's got more of that, not Le'Veon Bell role, but Le'Veon Bell role, I guess, in the passing game recently. James White's been targeted at least 9 times in 3 straight games. And with the Patriots so banged up at receiver, we know that James White is a guy that Tom Brady trusts. So if we can keep penciling in James White for 9 targets, that's probably going to be at least 7 or 8 catches with his 7 or 8 points. Plus, you got the yards, you got the touchdown upside. James White is the guy that I think is the safest overall running back play in the game.
Jeff, I mean, which running back are you going to go with tonight on the Pats, or are you going to stay away from this spot?
No, I mean, it's got to be James White. I mean, he's getting targeted like a number 1 receiver, 9, 9, 10. Those are his targets over the last 3 games. And now we still have Josh Gordon out. We got other guys banged up. I mean, there's no reason to think he's not going to push for 10 targets here in this game. And then you add in a few carries. And he's outside of Sony Michel. He's leading the Patriots in red zone touches. At some point, he's gonna have like a 2-touchdown game, and instead of getting like 13 DraftKings points, he's gonna get like almost 30. So this could be the spot for sure. The Patriots are 10-point favorites, whatever they are now. I mean, they're projected for over 20 points, well over 20 points. Yeah, give me James White in this spot. I'm just gonna keep playing him in these spots till he pays off.
Reed, you interested in James White in this spot?
Yeah, I mean, we saw what Austin Eckler did with the Chargers on Sunday, and that's really the James White role, is that he can become a receiver. With the receivers that are out for the Patriots, I don't think it's a question that if we do see both of these with Sony Michel and with James White on the field at some points, with James White running a lot of these routes, and even if these guys can't get anything on the ground with Sony Michel, you have that out route or that HB option with James White that can get you those precious 6 to 7 yards. So you're not in the 3rd and long in terms of what the Patriots want to do. But I mean, Brandon Bolden too, like Sony Michel's not even getting the goal line touches. He's not getting the red zone touches. It's Brandon Bolden, even though he ran the most routes and so on and so forth with Sony Michel. Like to Julian's point and what he was saying, this should be a perfect spot for Sony Michel. Huge favorites on the road. You want to attack that RB1, and Sony Michel has disappointed time and time again in these showdown contests too. So you can make feasible arguments for the other running backs. I'd rather go James White because his role is pretty much solidified in this offense, but Brandon Bolden's not a bad play at 3,200.
Where can people find value in a cheaper player tonight, Jeff?
Nowhere.
Okay,
I
fair.
mean, honestly, like as far as value in Showdown goes, this is ugly. This is one of the ugliest slates I've ever seen for players under 4K. I mean, you're basically just taking a shot that something crazy is going to happen. I mean, Eric Tomlinson at $300 supposedly might get worked in tonight, but you're just banking on him finding the end zone. I guess at 300, you don't even need him to find the end zone. You get him a couple targets. So he's in play. And then I think Ryan Griffin is probably the more viable touchdown target for the Jets. But again, he's going up against the Patriots defense. He's at 2,100. After those two, like I mentioned, Bilal Powell, he had one carry last game. There's just not much out there in value. I mean, it's under 4K. You're just really taking a shot in the dark. So I guess I'm advocating for a much more balanced approach in terms of rosters tonight.
Real quick, Reed.
Yeah, it's Ryan Griffin. Stack him with Darnold if you want to go contrarian.
Jules?
Reed said his name, Brandon Bolden. 5 touches in 2 straight games and a touchdown in each of them.
All right, that'll do it for the sweat. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll be back here tomorrow at 6 p.m. wherever you've been watching us tonight. We'll see you then. Bye.